Hello and welcome back to the Classically Chloe Show, where we talk about music and its effects on every aspect of our daily lives. I'm your host, Chloe Castillo, and I have another fantastic guest for you today. Returning to the show, the founder of Patriots Pathway of America and author of What is a Patriot, joining us now, Christobal Pinochet. Welcome to the show. Great to have you on here.
Thank you so much, Chloe. It's always a pleasure being here with you. So I'm very excited.
Of course. So let's dive right in here. I messaged you the other day after seeing some of the, um, I guess, interesting responses on the conservative right about Nicki Minaj. Some celebratory, some weren't too happy with it. And so I just want to get your thoughts right off the bat. What are your thoughts on her involvement with the conservative side of things? Are you a fan? Do you think this could go a different direction? What are your thoughts?
I must say it's a little bit different for me because normally, and I think you would agree, we tend to celebrate whenever we have people that are not your typical conservatives join us in this battle, right? Um, but I haven't. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong, but I think I saw a video of her. I think it was in the White House with, I believe it was the Secretary of Treasury or something like that, doing that trend video that's going around. And so, you know, in the spirit of Charlie Kirk, and also I would even go as far as saying in the spirit of Jesus Christ, right? Jesus Christ walked with prostitutes, walked with tax collectors back in the day, those people who were looked upon by society not in the best eyes, right? Or still till this day, I would say. But it wasn't him joining them or adapting to them or making them feel quote unquote comfortable. It was actually the complete opposite, right? It was to get them to turn closer to a Christian path, a Christian life, and so on. And so I'm all for the Nicki Minaj's of the world, the all these people that again are not your common typical conservative figures, to come and join us and to come and be part of our quote unquote our spaces, right? But in the effort of them joining us, right, and converting to what we are preaching, and be more like us, right? I haven't felt that 100%, and maybe it's too soon, maybe we're being a little too harsh with her, I don't know, but I haven't felt that that we've reached that point with Nicki Minaj specifically. And so I would want us to push it a little bit more, and her to give in a little bit more. And if I may, you kind of see this a little bit with Sydney Sweeney as well, right? We went crazy over her slight hint of her being more on the right, and it's great, it's fun, it's perfect. But I think we need to be just a little bit more demanding when it comes to these figures.
Absolutely. I think that's very well stated. And the whole idea of making sure they, I guess, assimilate, if you will, to conservatism rather than bowing down and backing off of our beliefs because we want to fit in with them and we want to become more like them just so we can, be the cool kids. I know the conservatives love it whenever someone calls them a part of the cool kids. We've seen that on stage at lots of events. But I think that it's very important that, like you said, we actually demand they go all the way. And when they're not, we have a problem because then, like, we're bowing down and we're retreating on our beliefs. And that's one thing the left always does is they push and push and push. They give a little, they push and push, they give a little, and we become more and more accustomed and it becomes more normal to us. And I think this is one of those instances in a way of, they're saying, hey, we're on your team. And then we go, oh, okay. And we welcome them all in with no boundaries, no borders, if you will. And then we become more and more like that side, even if on the face of it, they are saying that they're with us. I'm not saying she's, a sheep and wolf's or a wolf in sheep's clothing, rather. I don't know what she is. I don't know what's on her heart, unlike some of the conservatives out there. But I think that it's really important that we do, like you said, actually make sure in our excitement and in our acceptance of these people. And I could not agree with you more. I think it's very important, like you said, we do accept people who have strayed very far from the beliefs that we hold dear to our movement. I think that's one way to really grow. But at the same time, while still making sure we hold true to those values and those beliefs. And we've seen recently just an enormous push towards normalizing the ideologies and the values that Nicki Minaj has espoused her entire career. And until recently, she's now, made a few comments. Like, for example, I'm gonna get your thoughts on this because I find this very interesting. So Nicki Minaj, is calling Gavin Newsom Gavin Newscum. We all love it. We're eating it up. It's just the best thing since sliced bread. And we're talking about how, amazing it is that she's standing up against the whole trans ideology. At Turning Point USA's AmFest, she got on stage to say, "Oh, I think that little boys should be boys and girls should be girls, and what's wrong with that?" And the crowd goes wild, as they should. I agree. Now, how is it though that then just a few short years prior, 2023, she's making music videos with Kim Petras, who is a perverted, and I'm not saying perverted just because she's trans, but because she is trans and is extremely perverted. Singer, whatever you might want to call her, performer, who is writing songs with Sam Smith like Unholy, where we saw at the 2023 Grammys this complete display of Satanism and this hedonistic degeneracy on primetime television for the whole world to see and enjoy their perverted sexual display of demons and I don't even know how to describe this, which then she, of course, then continued the tour about singing the same stuff. So I think the song's called Alone. It's with Kim Petras and Nicki Minaj, where they talk about basically Nicki writing Kim Petras, blah, blah, blah. I'm just curious as to how this equals boys can be little boys and girls can be little girls couple short years later without actually denouncing what was previously spewed out into our culture at such a massive level. That's a personal disconnect for me. So what are your thoughts? I think that you already covered this beautifully so far. So what do you think about that? Should we be asking Nicki Minaj to say, "Hey, by the way, this is not what I stand for anymore. This is something that was, in my past, and I'm dedicated to do something better"? Or should we just be accepting it as, let her, live and let live? What are your thoughts?
Yes. So I think that we, first of all, we need to address it in the sense that we need to have higher standards as to when we include these people, these kind of people, into our movement, because they do for sure, right? Um, they're very strict with how the people that they platform, right, and the people that they give a voice to. And so we often in the conservative movement fall victim to our own softness and our own, like, everybody um, is welcomed and all that, which is again great and all. But we do need to be a little bit more consequential, because Nicki Minaj, all right, specifically Nicki Minaj, did play a very big role in getting the culture to where it is today. And again, God bless her if she's honest and sincere about wanting to come back, or not even come back, but wanting to change, right? And shift away from where she was. But then again, we can't get mad at her, or we can't get upset at her when we don't draw lines and boundaries, you know? And again, I go back to the video that I just recently saw where she's in the White House, using profanity, from with that video that was trending, that was going around and stuff, which I think, and again, I'm sorry, I'm not very involved in this aspect of things, but I think the song was actually hers, or she's the one singing those lyrics. So, and it's a very recent song as well, right? So, yes, I think we need to, be a little bit more. I don't know how to say it, because I don't want to come off as like, this hammer on people who are starting to come into our movement. But I do think that we need to have a standard like, okay, great, you're welcomed, and I think it's like the way where how Christianity as a whole works, right? Absolutely 100% you're welcome, but you're not welcome to continue living the same way that you lived before, right? You're welcomed, but now we got to start changing things around, right? And so I think somebody in that circle over there needs to, get that message across to Nikki, and she needs to, do a little bit more than just, say boys can be boys, girls can be girls, or calling Gavin Newsom, calling him Gavin Newscom. I think she has a little bit more and it's a great opportunity also, yeah, right, because she does have the platform, so it would be a great service to kind of make up for all those other years of great harm that she did also participate in. And so that is something that we can't, forget so easily.
I completely agree with you there. No, that's 100%. You're spot on. I mean, the thing is that, like you said, it's a fine line. You don't want to just bash Nikki for being not good enough for us or whatever. But I think the comparison to Christianity is a really solid one, because it is true. If you're going to actually drop your old ways and follow Christ, you have to actually abandon your old ways, not just say, oh, now I love Jesus and Jesus loves me and he forgives me, and but I'm going to keep doing this and keep it up and keep it alive. You have to actually, you die to your old self and you're born again. And I think that there's something to be said for that also when it comes to these cultural figures, like who like you just said, have done great harm to our culture. And to just imagine the impact this has had on so many young people across America, across the world, really, how they perceive themselves, how they perceive relationships, how they perceive the values that they believe in. And so when you then come out and just you decided to be MAGA, I think that, like you said, it's a fantastic opportunity to actually take it all the way and really take responsibility for this and say, you know what, we can do so much better. We should do so much better. And as a figure with so much power, culturally speaking, I'm going to lead the charge and actually do something better. So, I mean, like you said, God bless her for coming over here. I think that we need to be harder on ourselves, honestly, as conservatives, to hold these people to a higher standard once they start looking in our direction and not just be, thrilled to be able to be popular for a couple seconds and sit at the cool kids table. But yes, I think it's an awesome opportunity. I would love to see Nikki actually come over all the way and do some real good for the country. So I'm hopeful. So changing gears a little bit here. Um, I want to get your thoughts also. Actually, well, we'll kind of segue here with Nikki again. She's been also talking about recently, which I think is fantastic, about the pedophilia happening in Hollywood. And I have to just say, because I can't if I don't, but I have to just say it's a little disturbing to me that she's phrasing this or framing this as, hey, well, since y'all are being mean to me and bullying me, I'm going to start name dropping and dropping, the receipts. Like, well, lady, could you have done that a little bit sooner, maybe before more victims were victimized? Like, hey, just an idea, but whatever. At least she's doing something. I will give her that. And that's, I think, worth noting. So, with that said, this is kind of important, though, to see the receipts and to see the claims and the accusations that our music industry, the mainstream, is extremely perverse, which to me is no surprise. And you see the output, the music that they're creating should be all the evidence you need that there's something very perverse going on inside of this industry. But if that wasn't enough for everyone, if they have to actually see the real perversion face to face, this is, I think, starting to actually happen. So what do you think the response is going to be? Just conservatives, anyone across America, do you think people are going to be disgusted and turned off by the music industry? Or do you think they're going to just write it off as, oh, Hollywood is Hollywood and, let them be?
Well, I'll tell you what, I think with us conservatives, it really can be a hit or miss. I spent time in college campuses, and something that I will ever admire and forever respect is the fight that the other side puts. The left, the Democrats, the other side. Their fighting spirit. They don't fight for the right things. And actually, President Trump said it in 2016. When he was asked to say something good or something nice about Hillary Clinton, the only thing that he highlighted, and I agree with 100%, is he said she's a fighter. She doesn't fight for the right things, but she's a fighter. And so, anyways, what I'm saying with that is, you know, I really hope that we can continue to put fire underneath these people, and we push to actually hold them accountable. I think that I don't think, who knows when we'll be able to. I mean, if it doesn't happen now, if it doesn't happen in this administration, if it doesn't happen in the next, I mean, literally right now, I don't know when we'll have another opportunity, because I look at other people who are, potential candidates for the presidency and stuff, and none of them even give the slightest hint of being a fighter just as much as President Trump is. And so again, if we don't do it now with President Trump in office, then who knows when we'll be able to do it. So I really hope that the conservatives really start to wake up. You and I know each other for a while now. You know that I'm very passionate, very, you know, I guess it runs in my blood, and so are you, which is why I love everything that you're doing, and I think that people like you, we need more Chloe Castillos. Um, but yes, I really hope that the conservatives start, demanding more, not only from the other side, but from within us, right? And so uh, let's take advantage, or let's take the opportunity that Nikki is also speaking now, and she has, in my opinion, a lot more to lose than any of us. And if she's doing it, then that's a form of like, okay, well maybe, you know, that could be some form of like redemption for her as well, right? So give her some credit for that. But yes, I really hope that us, the conservatives, start to really demand change. I always go back to what would Charlie Kirk say? What would Charlie Kirk do in this moment right now? Um, and I think he would also be kind of like, all right, guys, we need to start, capitalizing on this. We need to start closing chapters, right? We need to start um, adding wins to the tally mark. And I think right now we have a perfect opportunity to do so. So I hope that people start to wake up, to the Bad Bunnies of the world, right? The Billie Eilish or whatever her name is. I don't even know what her name is. The people that are contaminating our youth and our culture. I hope that we start, fighting back. And again, it's amazing, and I strongly encourage people to support what you're doing, because you're in a pretty strong battle yourself with, make music right. And so we need more, again, we need more Chloe Castillos. We need more people who are going to really push to make a difference, and lead the way as well. So that's, again, I hope conservatives do. It's a hit or miss with conservatives, but people like you give me hope. So yeah.
Well, same to you. And so, with that said, let's go into your organization a little bit here. You have, like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, Patriots Pathway of America, and you have several pillars that focus on different parts of an individual's lifestyle, whether it be spirituality or health or culture or politics. And so, going back to the Grammys, you just mentioned Billie Eilish, who I think is absolutely absurd and out of her mind in a lot of ways. But just the most hot topic right now is the whole idea of stolen land. She announced at the Grammys that no one is illegal on stolen land. I think the conservatives have done a very good job roasting her over the past, however, like 48 hours or whenever this happened. So going back to your organization, I don't think we really need to roast Billy that much. I think everyone else has done a great job of attacking her, rightly so. So when it comes to the cultural arm of your organization, I know that you're really focused on bettering the individual. I think that's very important. And so, with that said, we need role models. And right now, the role models in culture consist of the Billie Eilishes of the world, and like you said a minute ago, also Bad Bunnies, who is slated to appear in a dress at the Super Bowl, probably singing in Spanish. I don't really know how this is super American, but okay. That's probably the whole point of this, is to go as anti-American as possible for the most American sporting event all year. No surprise, like you said, they fight really hard, and we have to give them credit for that. So what is your organization, what do you have in mind to make happen? What do you want to see? What kind of change do you want to see happening when it comes to the hearts and minds of young people across America, culturally speaking? What kind of role models do you hope to see? And what is your organization planning on doing to really help make that change?
Yes. So, in the words of Bo Loudon, the great Bo Loudon, who was just on a podcast not too long ago, he said that a lot of the problem right now is that we don't have, our youth doesn't have purpose. A lot of them walk around, with no purpose. And so culturally speaking, right? That's the culture that we see with our youth right now. It's you know they're walking around with no purpose. So what we want to do with Patriots Pathway of America in the culture pillar is, first of all, we want to remind people and show people and prove to people that there is such a thing as American culture. And if there was, and you know what I always tell people, and this shuts them up pretty quick whenever I get pushed back or what's it called, um, resistance from people saying that no, there's no such thing as American culture, is if that were the case, then somebody needs to explain to me what's going on in the southern border, why we have so many people from all over the world who want to come into this country, if there isn't such a thing as an American culture, right? So one of the biggest focuses that we have is reminding people and resurfacing again in a much broader cultural sense what American culture is, right? And then um, uh, different pushes that we want to make of our own is going back to having more initiative, being more taking more risks, going out and doing things like what you're doing. Again, I go back to you, I go back to, again, Bo Loudon, Nick Shirley, James O'Keefe, Charlie Kirk, these people who go out and do things that are not your common stuff. That's very American. It's actually, if there's one thing that's very American culture, is taking risks. We wanted to go to the moon. We see a country misbehaving somewhere else, and we say, you know what, that's not right, and we're gonna go in. We step in. That's very American, and we've lost that in the past years. We've gotten this very dumbed down generation or people who don't want to take initiative, don't want to take action. So as far as our culture pillar goes, what we want to do is two things. We want to remind people and teach people and educate people on what true American culture is, and then also start shaping culture, getting people like yourself and others in key places where we can influence culture, right? I spent a lot of time in college campuses, and you can tell, right? And it's so heartbreaking because you can tell that we are, in fact, leftist, Marxist control in our college campuses. So the question is, why have we surrendered culture, right? I mean, imagine again, and I keep going back to this. Imagine we had more Chloe Castillos, more Bo Loudons, more Nick Shirleys, more Cam Higbees, and the people. There's many other people as well. I'm just naming a few. Imagine we had more Charlie Kirks, running and being involved and being in those key positions of our culture, then we would have a completely different country, right? So what we want to do is we want to grow an army of people that understand what American culture is. And the reason for that is, again, because for the longest, we've been told that there isn't such a thing as an American culture. So we want to fight that. And then once we win that battle, which I think we're going to win pretty soon, then we want to start pushing people to get into those key positions, right? So that's the focus of our culture pillar. Empower and then send out, educate them and then send them out to the places that where they can actually influence society.
I love that. That is so important. I think that creating or fostering good citizens with the right kind of values is imperative. And that's absolutely spot on what our nation needs right now. And so, God bless you guys for doing the work to actually save America, if you will. I think that was Charlie's tagline, which really says a lot. And I think we need more people who are actually willing to do that work. And so, with that said, let's do a couple ads and we'll be back with more from Christobal as we wrap up.
When things go sideways, will you be ready? Meet the new Patriot Power Generator 1200, a solar generator that's lightweight with more capacity and more life cycles, and recharges twice as fast, all at a fraction of the price. In a blackout, power lights, TVs, medical equipment, even your fridge. No gas, fumes, or noise. It's safe to use inside your home. This is about peace of mind. To learn more about this amazing generator and get your free solar panel, go to Patriot TV Store and look for the solar generator banner.
All right. Thank you so much for joining me today, Christobal. So, final words from you. Tell my audience, what can they expect from Patriots Pathway of America in the coming months? What is exciting on the horizon for 2026 for you guys? And what do you hope to see change culturally speaking in America?
Yes, well, thank you again so much for giving me this platform. I really appreciate it. And as far as what we're doing right now, next week we're actually launching in West Palm Beach, Florida. So we're very excited. We're starting our county division over there, and then we're starting in Miami pretty soon as well. Most likely this month as well. We're starting off in New York, so now we're expanding outside of Florida, and then we're gonna be starting in LA. So we're going to be growing out, and I'm very excited about that very much. um, and then we're going to be doing a lot of events as well, but I'm more of a person that doesn't really want to just have events for the sake of having events, right? I want to have, we're going to be doing events and all that stuff, yes, but also the way that we're going to be doing our events is going to be so that people, when they leave with something that they can go back to, right? So we're going to be giving them a lot of resources, a lot of opportunities, a lot of material that they can constantly be referencing back to, right? And as far as the country as a whole, we want to, we've been blessed at Patriots Pathway of America just very recently, because it's been a very hard battle for us as well. But just very recently, we've been blessed to have people who are, strongly believing in us and our mission. And we're now going to be very involved with the decision makers. So that's something that I'm very excited for our organization, but for the country as a whole. And as far as what I would want to see from the culture, again, I'm not going to get tired of saying it. I want to see more Chloe Castillos. I want to see more Bo Loudons, more Nick Shirleys, more Charlie Kirks, more James O'Keefe's, more Cam Higbee's, true patriots who want to not just sit on their phones and complain about things on social media, but are actually going out and doing things. That's what I want to see. And we want to also play a part in that by helping people do that. It's crazy how much you can accomplish with our current youth if you just give them that push and that confidence. So we want to play a role in that, and that's also something that I would want to very much see.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again for coming on and discussing this. And you keep mentioning the Patriots who you think are doing a great job, and I appreciate that I'm a part of that list. That's really awesome. And same to you as well. We need more Cristobal Pinochets out there too, who are willing to actually do this work to gather these kind of people together and make sure that they have a platform, that they have the resources needed, and everything has to fit into place there. I think it's very important. So props to you and your organization. I think y'all are going to go very far and do fantastic work. Where can my audience find you?
Well, we have right now, we actually are going to be growing our social medias a lot more, but our website is wearepatriots.org, and people can go on there, become a member. And we're doing things every single week. It's not something where you're just going to see from a distance. We are very interactive. We're very connected. So yes, our website is wearepatriots.org, and pretty soon you're going to be seeing us in person in a lot of different cities. So I'm sure people will be running into us very soon.
Amazing. I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Chloe.
Thank you so much for watching this episode. Please subscribe to the Classic Chloe Show on Rumble, YouTube, and Spotify to stay up to date on the latest episodes. Please also follow me at Classically Chloe on Instagram and all other platforms, as well as please do also check out makemusicright.com to learn more about the conservative music movement and what we are doing to change culture. See you next week. God bless.